Beautiful.
Um, yeah, I wish I could see you there. It's I don't know why it's not allowing it, but it is what it is, I guess.
Well, now they at least have the people who can see have something to look at with the title slide there. So,
Yeah. You let me when I should start letting people in.
Yep. Yeah, I think we should let people in.
yep, let's
Good.
start letting them in. It just flipped over to 1 o'clock.
All right, good luck to us, guys. It's the moment, so let's do it. I see someone on the phone, so let's see. How do we let them in? We might already be in. You know what? I don't know if there's a
It
way.
may have it may have automatically allowed them to enter as soon as 1 o'clock hit. So
Okay.
Hello, hello. Welcome everybody. If you're here, let us know in the chat that you're here and where you're coming in from. Hopefully everybody is having a good Wednesday afternoon, morning, night, wherever it is you're coming in from. Curious to see where we got people tuning in from. We're going to give it a couple of minutes to let people get in. We'll probably start right at 1:05, just as a heads up if you need to let the dogs out, feed them, grab a drink, whatever you need to do. We got a couple of minutes before we're actually going to get started. We're going to just give everybody a chance to get in that wanted to join in today. So
I also want to call out, thank you, Mike, for letting us know that if you want to announce where you're coming from, go ahead and submit it through the open questions section in Q&A. And we have Mike tuning in from Rye, New Hampshire so far.
hello, Mike. Hopefully you're having a good day. Hopefully the weather's holding up out there. Where we're at, it's rainy and cloudy. So hopefully you're getting the sunshine instead of us.
Amy McCaw says, hello, James.
Hey, Amy, how are you? There we go.
We
We got
have Doug in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
How's it going, Doug? Happy you're here. Amy, hello, hello. For everybody just jumping in, we're going to get started right at the 1:05 mark. And then we will pass it off and jump right into the content. So if you need to grab a drink or anything like that, feel free to take a second and do that, and we'll get started just in a minute. Welcome everybody. I see a couple of people we still got people jumping in. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. If you're just jumping on, let us know where you're tuning in from, and we're gonna get started here in about 2 minutes or so. We're glad you're here though. It's exciting. We're trying something new, and hopefully this is the first of many.
We have Jenna tuning in from the Lighthouse of Houston.
Hello, Jenna. Hopefully you're doing all right, enjoying your Wednesday so far. Give it one more minute before we kick things off and get this first webinar underway.
And we have Sue from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania as well,
Good
along
afternoon.
with Debbie from St. Petersburg, Florida.
We're filling up the whole map. We got Texas, we
Yeah.
got Pennsylvania, we got Florida, we got New Hampshire. We got me and Jan out in Ohio, Darren and Adon out in Washington, D.C. So we're filling up primarily the East Coast so far. Where's the West Coast people at, or is it still too early for them?
And we are at 105, James.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to kick us off. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As I mentioned while we were getting started, we're trying something new. This is the first of hopefully many webinars that we're going to be doing, talking about making the world more accessible. And so today we are kicking things off this series of webinars. We're calling it Together We Build, because accessibility is a team effort. In order for things to move forward, we have to do it as a team. We have to collaborate. We have to talk. We have to let our voices, opinions, thoughts, beliefs, all of that be heard. So together we build. And today we're focusing on the topic of creating accessible environments for the blind and visually impaired. I am kicking things off. My name is James Warnkin. I am based out of Northeast Ohio, so close to a couple of you guys. And I am actually a part of this blind and visually impaired community that we're talking about today. I've had Stargarts since I was 9 years old, so about 17-ish years. And I can talk from firsthand experience about some of the challenges and barriers that exist in our physical world, whether it's an environment that I've been in 100 times or it's my first time being there. And so getting to work with Darren, Adon, and the RightHear team has been incredible so far. So I'm excited for them to share a little bit about how RightHear works and what the technology is like behind it, and how we can all sort of work together and collaborate to push things forward towards that accessible future. So quick highlight of what we're going to talk about today. Should be pretty straightforward. So we're going to kick things off with talking about the current accessibility landscape. What does it currently look like from that perspective? Then we're going to move into what is RightHear. What do we do? What do they do? What do we do? How do we do it? Why are we doing it? Answering all of those questions. Then we'll get into what we're calling a community-driven solution for accessibility. And then we're going to wrap things up talking about RightHear's Unlock program, and then opening things up for a Q&A session for the last 10, 15 minutes or so, answering your questions or curiosities that you may have that spark from the conversation today. So without holding anything up any longer, the team today that we're going to be talking with, hearing from, are Darren and Adon from the RightHear team. So I'm going to hand things off to Adon to introduce himself, and then he'll pass it off to Darren to do the same. So
Yeah.
Adon, thank you.
Thank you, James, and thank you all for joining us today. I'm very excited, and I want to first and foremost say that we are all part of an experiment. This is the first time we're doing such a webinar here in the country, in the US, for the community. This is the first, but far, far from being the last. We're planning to do much more of that. So, thank you for joining and being among the first of this webinar series. And thank you also for your patience with the technicalities. And I still think, Darren or Jan, you're probably trying to find how can we also allow you guys to speak later, not just through the chat, but if you want to raise your hand and share your voice, would love to hear you. We're here also to hear you. My name is Idan. I'm one of the co-founders of RightHear. We started that almost 7 years ago in Israel. And we started our American operations here in the country just a year and a half ago. Both of us, Darren and I, are based here in Maryland, very close to DC. And thanks to James for facilitating this event. As I said, it's the first time, and I'm very excited. I'll do most of, I guess, most of the talking. Darren's going to lead from here, but I'll speak a little bit more at the end. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for your patience, and I hope also to hear you a little bit more at the end of the session, to speak again, and obviously see you at the next events we're going to have as well. So with that in mind, Darren, I'm passing it to you.
Okay, thank you, Dan, and hi to everyone. Some of the people in this on webinar I know well. Others, it's the first time meeting you and our first interaction with you through RightHear. So we're delighted that you joined, and we're going to take you through a bit of a journey around current accessibility landscape, how things appear. And then we'll get into how RightHear fits in with that, and some of our ideas moving forward, and how we can really move the needle on accessibility, improving accessibility metrics and improving accessibility across the country. And Dan will also come back and talk about that. So let's first of all kick off looking at, what does accessibility look like at the moment for our community. And current stats suggest that there's around 9 million plus people in the US who are blind or have some kind of vision loss, 1 million of those who are totally blind, and 8 million plus people who have vision loss in the US. And I'm guessing lots of people in this call know these stats, but that over 90% of people who do have some kind of vision loss don't know how to read Braille. And there are obviously lots of reasons for that. 98% of people who are blind don't use guide dogs, and 92% of people with vision impairments don't use a white cane. So there's obviously these stereotypes which come from the general population as to the blind and visually impaired community. But we can see here that a lot of those stereotypes and generalizations as to how the community deals with accessibility challenges are not really relevant. And are probably misplaced, not out of any negative intention, but simply out of maybe a lack of awareness or education. And that's where RightHear comes in. And RightHear aims to plug the gap, I guess, between where the intention of Braille and the intention of other accessibility devices and other accessibility accommodations should be meeting, but actually are falling by the wayside. And our mission is pretty simple, and it's been the mission of the company for the last 6 or 7 years since it was established, and that's to make the world more accessible, one building at a time, one location at a time. And that's what we've been doing. We now have 2,500 locations globally. We're growing very rapidly here in the US across all kinds of sectors, and it's a very exciting time for us when we turn one library or one airport or one coffee shop or one national park or one sports stadium and make it more accessible. It's one more step into a different vertical, which is really having these transformational powers, I would say, to reach far and beyond into different communities, into different cities and counties within the country. So what does our app do? How does it work? The RightHear app helps people to orientate in public spaces. It helps people understand where they are, what's around them, and then move on within that space, whether it is a coffee shop or a sports center or a public transport hub. And how do we make this happen? We work with businesses and organizations to allow those businesses, organizations to turn their physical locations into more accessible spaces. On the other side of that is an app for the users who use the system, and those users can then use the system outdoor to help them orientate and navigate in outdoor spaces when they're moving from home down the street to their local supermarket or wherever they might be going. But then the secret sauce of what we do is working with businesses to make those indoor locations more accessible, so that when somebody arrives at a location, they're able to have a more independent experience in that location and move around from the entrance to a lecture theatre in a university, or to the restrooms in a shopping mall, for example. Our app is 100% free. It always has been, it always will be. We don't believe that users of our app should have to pay for the right to be accessible, in the same way that somebody who uses a wheelchair ramp would never be asked to pay for that wheelchair access into a building. And our app is available on iOS and Android, 26 languages. So basically it's there for everyone and should help everyone. I'm going to skip this slide and go into here. So there's three components. As I said, there's the app for users. There's the admin dashboard, which helps businesses update information, and that information is communicated to users through the app. And then we place little beacons in buildings, and those beacons are the things which help deliver the information. They identify a user is there, and then the information is delivered. And this, for example, I'm now showing a screen which has some screenshots of what our app looks like. We have a map within our app, which helps people identify where their nearest locations are. We have a directory of listings within the app, which shows people which locations around them are accessible. And then users can then find a restaurant near them, which might be accessible, or find a state park near them, which might be accessible. And then the user can then go in and simulate an experience of arriving at that location prior to arriving there. You can understand what it would be like if you're going somewhere the following day, how it would feel like when you arrive at the reception, when you move through the building. So it gives you an opportunity to understand the location prior to arriving. I'm now showing a slide which has a list of logos of some of our clients and some of the companies we work with. As I said before, we work with over 2,500 locations globally, and we have clients including McDonald's and Pizza Hut and Microsoft and Grand Hyatt Hotels. And here in the US, we're excited. We're working with the Lighthouse of Houston, and I know a couple of the guys are on the call today, and the University of Alaska, and National Bridge State Park in Virginia, and Sucker Restaurants here in DC, and East Brunswick Public Library. And even today, we just installed in a new public library in Denver area. Yesterday, we installed in a medical center in Ohio, I think. We're installing in more and more places. Hopefully next week, we'll be installing in an NBA stadium, which I can't tell you the name of them, but hopefully we'll be able to announce that very soon. Very soon, we should be installing in a large airport, one of the leading airports here in the US. So there's more and more people who are joining this movement. I'm now showing a map which shows a range of some of the locations that we have, 2,500, as I said, the East Coast in the US, all the way through Houston and Texas, and out to California and Oregon and Alaska. And this kind of brings me on to the next stage of what we're looking to do. And everything that the company has built up since day one with Dan and Galen Israel and the team there is about building a movement, building a community of users, and building a community of businesses and organizations who are those early adopter organizations who want to make a change, want to make a fundamental difference to the lives of people, the accessibility opportunities of people. And in 2024, there are so many capabilities for us to build that community and build that movement. And that's where we see the future of the company. That's where we see this future of accessibility with the real superpower of what we're doing. And I'm going to hand over to Dan, who's going to talk about that, those efforts and that goal. Dan.
Yes, thank you, Darren. And I do see some questions in the chat, which is great. And I promise that we're going to answer that very soon. Please, I invite you again all to write your questions there, while we're also trying to troubleshoot how we allow you to speak so we can actually hear you, not through the text there. But thank you for asking it there. So what if we did it together? Currently, the slide that Darren is showing is with a big headline of what if we did it together. And one of the I love playing with words and words game. And there's one that I specifically love, which I sometimes feel like it's kind of burned for us, which is that in order to get there, we need to work together. Those two sounds very similar, and I really do believe in that in our case. In order to make more spaces accessible, we realized especially in the past 2 years, but since we started, it was obvious for us that we need to work closely with the community. And I'll maybe share one more thing about it later, but we realized that it has to come from the bottom up. It has to come from the people, actually, from the individual that are actually going to use it. And as Darren said, it's time for a change. And the way we hope and the way we're trying to promote these changes by in one word, advocacy. Asking for accessibility from facilities isn't just a request for a feature, isn't just a request for the kindness. It's demanding the right that we all have of independence wherever we go. Accessibility is the law, right, under the ADA, and providing effective communication. That's how it's actually written there. It's the whole thesis behind the ADA. That's, by the way, why we can find Braille signs many places we go. The reason there are Braille there on the signs is because 34 years ago, when the ADA was written, that was the best way to make these signs effective. Today, in 2024, we understand that there are more ways to do that, complementary solutions that can do that, and specifically audio format of these signs. And by the way, this is not just for the blind or visually impaired community. This is great for everyone else. It is great for people with language barriers, right? Sometimes I feel like it might be more helpful for me to hear the signs in Hebrew wherever I go here in the country, moving here just 2 years ago. It could be helpful for people with cognitive disabilities who might see the sign and know the language, but cannot necessarily read it if it's a dyslexia or something else. So this is not a privilege. This is a right. It's everyone's right to be independent wherever they go, whether it's outdoors or indoors. And the only way that we see that happening is by working together with the community and asking it from the facilities around us. Could be our neighborhood coffee shop all the way to the bigger ones. If we want to ask for it, and by the way, I'll share with you, in many of the meetings that we had, the other side, these facilities managers we talked with, were sharing with us, well, you know what? We never heard any requests from that. So maybe there's no such a need. Of course there is, but there's not enough of awareness to that. And this is, again, part of the reason we're doing this webinar, and we'll do much more of that. Again, working together with you in making that happen. Darren, you can take the next slide. In the next slide, we kind of like to introduce the Unlock program. And the Unlock program is our way of not just unlocking facilities that we feel like it's sometimes locked or not accessible as they can be, but really unlocking potential. It's accessibility, as we said in our very beginning, is the backbone of inclusion. There's no inclusion without accessibility, right? And therefore, by unlocking facilities, I truly believe and excited about the potential we can also unlock with that as well, whether if it's in the workspace or in any other ways of life. The Unlock program is basically our way of working together proactively with the community by increasing the awareness around the need of accessibility in public spaces. And the way it works is pretty simple. Now you can kind of move to the next slide. Is that we're trying to build, if you will, an army of volunteers. That's what the next slide is now showing. An army of volunteers that basically going to help us increase awareness among business community and facilities for the need around it, not necessarily right here, by the way, but for the need of audio format signage or alternative format for the signs that they already have. The way it works is by, this volunteering is pretty simple. You can do it from wherever you are. Shouldn't take more than, Darren, you might help me with that, but shouldn't take more than, I don't know, a few minutes or to an hour a week sometimes. And it could be on your own pace. We would love to have your help in reaching out to different facilities, different businesses, understand with you which should we reach out to at all, and helping you and us with providing the information that these facilities need to know in order to improve their accessibility and customer experience in general at these facilities. Yeah, Darren, you can take the next one. In the next one, there's basically a link that I'm sure we're going to share very soon in the chat, and obviously in the follow-up. This link is basically a simple Google form where you can sign with your name and email, and we'll help you from that point of how can you help us, reaching out to these facilities, working together with you. This is something that actually Darren is leading and is doing it very successfully. So thank you for that, Darren. Darren, when you explained earlier about the app, one important thing that I think you kind of missed with all the thing you said, that the app is not just free everywhere we go, it's also completely private. So this form where we're asking for your name and email is just so we can communicate with you toward this unlock program. But in the app, if you already download the app, you probably noticed that we never ask for your name or email or Facebook or Twitter or whatever that is. It's completely anonymous. Our business model isn't the data from the users. I always said that, and it will never be. This is not our business. Our business model is charging these facilities with a reasonable accommodation price. And I'm saying reasonable accommodation because, as we mentioned the ADA earlier, that's an ADA term, a reasonable accommodation. It's not an expensive solution for facilities, and it's important to emphasize this. It doesn't take them long to make it accessible, and it should be a no-brainer. That's how we think about it. Having an audio format signage system in 2024 should be a no-brainer decision for facilities to have. That's where we're aiming, and that's where we need the help with. Yes, so we can, I guess next slide is just asking for questions. I don't know if we already have the ability to hear you guys, but for the next time, we'll for sure have that in place from the very beginning. And otherwise, maybe there are some questions in the chat that we can respond to.
Well, Dan, what we can do is,
Please.
I can, if anyone wants to speak, they can raise their hand, and then I can allow each person in turn to speak. I can't seem to find another way to allow everyone to speak at once, but so if we start, I see that Michael Buckley has raised his hand. Michael, I'm going to allow you to speak. There you go. Michael, the floor is yours.
Okay, maybe we'll get back to Mike with another
Michael.
try. Mike?
If anyone else would like to ask a question, raise your hand.
I think I saw Douglas asking a question earlier, but it might have been answered already.
Yeah, Douglas asked, are your beacons Bluetooth? If so, who maintains them once installed?
Darren, you want to answer? Want me to answer?
Okay. So Douglas, I've just allowed you to speak, so you could speak if you want to come off mute. Yes, our beacons are Bluetooth. They require no electricity, no Wi-Fi. They're operated by batteries, and the life cycle of those tends to be 3 to 4 years. So they're pretty long lasting, and they work in any types of weather, from exceptionally hot weather to very cold weather, inside and outside. And we maintain those beacons. So basically, as part of the relationship we have with our clients, the businesses and organizations, when those beacons cease to be operational, when the battery finishes, we supply new beacons to our clients for no charge. It's just part of the ongoing relationship and subscription that they have with us. So we always take care of that.
Okay, and I see that Michael Buckley said that he didn't raise his hand.
And this is Doug. Thanks for answering my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you so much.
I'm going to allow Peter to talk. Peter, there you go. You're unmuted. Peter, I think you just need to. Peter, if you unmute on your own side, and then we'll be able to hear you.
Hello, Darren.
Yep. Hi there, Peter.
Hey, Darren. Hey, hello, everyone. Yes, so first off, so everyone knows, I'm very excited. Tomorrow we will be installing a test beacon site into the Beaufort Hotel here in Beaufort, North Carolina. And looking forward to that. My question, Darren, is to explain a little bit better what to expect. I walk into the facility, I'm in the range of the beacon, it knows I'm there, it's giving me the entrance information. But associated with that, around a radius, I've got, I'm assuming, points of interest. And so then is it, as we rotate our camera towards that point of interest, we get that information and basically just kind of give a run through of what to expect as a user. Thanks.
Sure. So it's not working on a camera basis. It's working on a directional basis within the app. So within the app, on the phone, the app identifies 8 points of a compass: north, south, east, west, etc., etc. So as a user, let's say a user enters a hotel lobby, and they're standing in the center of that hotel lobby, and there's a beacon there, and that beacon identifies that the user is standing there. And as the user points their phone in different directions, so to the left if that is east, and to the right if that is west, and straight ahead if that is north, the app already has information programmed in there by us and or by the business, which says what's in that direction and how far it might be. So if a user is standing in the lobby and pointing north, and in that direction is the check-in counter, reservation desk, the app might say, continue in this direction for 20 feet to reach the reservation desk. And then it could be, if the user points their phone to the east, to the left, it may say, continue in this direction for 30 feet to reach the restrooms. The door on the left is the female restroom, the door on the right is the male restroom. And then by having different beacons at different points of interest within the location, it helps users identify where they are, move on to a next point of interest, and then also move back. So the same beacon which tells a user they're at the entrance and tells them to move towards the reservation desk can also give them information of moving back towards the exit of the hotel when they're moving in the opposite direction.
That's great, and I appreciate that. That will be helpful when doing the install tomorrow. Thanks.
Yeah, and Darren, could you just elaborate on how that experience starts? Because you and I have had conversations about the indoor versus outdoor experience. And so it might be helpful to explain how a user might initiate that experience. Do they just need to open the app? Is there something within the app they need to turn on? What does that look like to get it started?
Okay, good question. So the app is running in the background, as many apps do on our phones. And so when a user arrives at a location which is RightHear enabled, the app will start speaking to them. The beacon that's there will be at the entrance, for example, will identify that a user is within the radius of that beacon, and that user has the app on their phone, it's running in the background, and it will start speaking. For example, it will say, welcome, you've just arrived at Circa Restaurant, Navy Yard, DC. Opening times are 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. Happy hour, half price dinner is 7 p.m. on a Thursday. And then there will be a link which will say, click this link for our accessible menu, or call this number for reservation. And then it will give the directional information. So in a restaurant setting, it may say, continue through the doors in this direction for 5 feet, and you'll be greeted by one of our hosts. Or it might say, we have other restaurant settings where it says, continue through the door in this direction for 20 feet for the self-service ordering counter. Yeah. So the app will identify when a user is there, start speaking to them, and start giving them the information to understand where they are and to move on within the location.
Yeah, and I think highlighting that is one of the points about RightHear that I appreciate the most, is that it's seamless. There's not a whole lot of user input that has to happen. It automatically picks up when you're close or in front of a location. It doesn't require you to walk around holding your phone up as you're moving through the city or across the street or anything. It just kind of works like a push notification in a sense.
Yep. Anyone else raising a hand? Any other questions that I can then unmute somebody and give the floor?
See, we have two on the phone. I don't know if it's possible to raise hand there, but yeah, would love to hear you.
One thing I want to say while people are getting to their hands or their questions is, when we first started talking about RightHear and me being an end user, whether I'm in a location by myself or with somebody or whatever, it's a very intimidating environment, especially if it's your first or your second time being there. And so with what the RightHear app offers, I am beyond excited to see it start rolling into different locations. And so I'm curious, the people that are on here, what are, if you could think of any, what are some of the locations where you could see something like RightHear or one of the similar technologies being helpful in that environment? For me, the one that jumps out the most is the grocery store. And being in a new grocery store for the first time, some of them are set up in a very specific way, and then you go to a different location and it's completely flipped. It's almost like backwards. And so I'm curious if anyone in the chat has any ideas for locations that we didn't mention, like libraries and schools and medical centers and NBA arenas where this might be useful.
I see that Matt has raised his hand. I've just unmuted. Matt, you're free to talk and ask your question.
Hello.
Hi, Matt.
Hi. I'm in a little small town in New Brunswick, Canada, over on the north side of the border of Maine. And I'm just wondering, like, how do I know like what locations I can use your app in, and like how do I know it'll be like in places that are near me?
Yeah, maybe I'll answer this, Darren. So hello, and thank you for joining, Matt, and thank you for asking this question. You can find the list of nearby locations inside the app. If there's a button there called Nearby, once you tap on it, it will open up the list of all the locations that are accessible with RightHear, all the RightHear enabled locations, from the one that is near to you all the way to the one that is far away. Nothing come to from my immediately in your specific area, maybe Darren, to you, a specific area and a specific location in your area, but that actually leads me to ask a question that a lot of time we've been asked is, how can I make more locations accessible in my area, right? So let's say there's none in your few miles radius, and you want to experience that, and you want them to be accessible. The answer is exactly what we said before with the Unlock program, is just asking for that. We see a great impact when it's been asked from the community. But yeah, to your point, Matt, it's in the app. There's a list in the app where you can find it.
Okay, thanks. And what is the name of the app again?
The name is RightHear, RIGHT, and hear like hearing, HEAR. And that actually reminds me, earlier I wanted to say we wanted to hear you. And, I have different feelings about the RightHear's name. Over the years, people thought, so this is for the hearing impaired, this is for the visually impaired. Sometimes it is confusing. But one of the reasons we've early on decided to call ourselves RightHear is because of this understanding early on. That's, I'm sighted, and Gil, my co-founder, is also sighted. And when we started, we just both sighted people trying to help people who are blind. So what do we know, right? And what do we know? And we realized that we don't know a lot, and therefore we have to work very, very closely with the community, and that the right thing to do is to listen, is really listening to them and tune into them. And that's how we kind of come up with the name RightHear. Hear like hearing. And again, it's a self reminder even today for us. It's part of the the reasons for this webinar. It's the futures to come. We really do want to hear. We really do want to work as close as possible with the community and making the app right at the right locations, and at the right experience for us all. So yeah, look for that Android and iPhone right here. We're gonna James, are we gonna send? Yeah.
What we're going to do is we'll send a follow-up email to everyone who's signed up, and we'll send you a number of links. One is we'll send you links to the app, both iOS and Android. One is we'll send a link to the Google Sheet, where anyone who is interested to get more information about volunteering and part of the movement, as Dan described, that they can just leave their name and address and email there. So we'll share that, and we'll share some other bits and pieces which you might find useful. Some app tutorials on how to use the app, some videos on YouTube. and some other videos and audio clips, which hopefully you'll all find interesting and useful.
And I see Alejandra is raising her hand. Um, yep. Alejandra, can we hear you? I guess you can unmute now.
Yes, my name is Alejandra Gonzalez. I'm with Easter Seals Greater Houston. I had a couple questions. One of them actually Darren just answered, and it was about whether the app is user friendly and do you guys have any guides? And from what I understood, you guys do have video tutorials for users, correct?
Yep,
Correct.
a lot of them.
Yes.
That's awesome. My next question is it voiceover compatible?
Of course, of course. And in 26 different languages. You know what? That's, yeah. And I'm glad you asked this because, again, a reminder, we talked about the impact it's creating for the blind, visually impaired community, but also for, again, for people with cognitive disabilities or just language barriers. So, yes.
I love to hear that. And lastly is what plans do you currently have to expand within the Texas area to get more businesses involved so that there is more accessibility?
Is Jenna still here? Jenna, I guess in order to allow you to raise speak, you can just raise your hand. But I think I would love to hear you on that. But absolutely, I've been to Houston, Texas, very just recently. The Houston Lighthouse is accessible and is partnered with us, and we're very, very excited about this. It's been spread out already, and Jenna, the president of the Lighthouse of Houston, is here with us. Hopefully, she's still here with us. She might want to say a few words about it, but absolutely, we see great community growing there in the area. We have a few locations that we're in discussions with right now. One is already accessible, which is the Houston Lighthouse, and more to come. So
that is awesome to hear. I'm super excited. I work with a lot of visually impaired clients, so I know they're going to be very excited about this. I guess last thing, I would love to get some contact information with you guys. Like I mentioned, I'm with Easter Seals Greater Houston, and we actually run a website for disability apps. And we currently have your app already on our site, but we don't have it reviewed. So I'd love to kind of get that in the works with you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us there.
I'll follow up with you after this. I'll send you an email with all the information, and then we can pick it up offline for sure.
All right, thank you so much.
I would just add to your question about how do we get more places accessible in your area, and that really is the goal of everything that we do, is kind of empowering people in the community who maybe up until this point have felt that businesses or organizations don't listen to them or are not prepared to make those changes in their accommodations. And we're here to say, listen, we can help. We've got the energy and the enthusiasm and the long-term vision to kind of give a bit of energy to everyone's elbow, a bit of grease the wheel, and help people reach out to businesses, help people make businesses aware. And because the first big part of this is awareness. We can't assume that normal businesses who are trying to keep their restaurant open or their concert hall or whatever they might be doing have got the bandwidth to focus on accessibility. As much as we would like them to, a lot of them don't. So we're here to help make that happen.
And if I could jump in here, just a comment that one of the most frustrating parts about having a visual impairment is the lack of accessibility, and like Darren said, that comes from the lack of awareness. And so if you're in this community, chances are you've reached out to organizations, you've submitted contact forms, you've submitted help tickets, you've tried to request this, and in about 90% of cases, I would say a lot of times we feel ignored. And so I wanted to, Darren, I wanted to ask if you could highlight when somebody joins this movement, joins this community, there are materials already crafted for them to use. They don't have to come up with the email or how they're going to reach out. you guys have already taken care of that. So I think it's important to highlight that there are materials already ready to go once you join into the RightHear community. And I think a very cool component of that not a lot of other companies do, which is why we get along so well, is you're not just promoting RightHear within that communication. You're promoting essentially the competitors of RightHear, because as a company, RightHear, you, Adon, you, Darren, care about making things more accessible, regardless of how it happens. So if you guys want to talk to that for a few minutes, I think that is an excellent transition point into the rest of the questions.
Yeah, I'll let you, Darren, answer this. I just want to say also, Jonas is raising a hand there. But yes, as you said, James, for us, it's about promoting the concept, the category of audio format signage. RightHear is one player. There are other great players in this. And in order to make that easy for volunteers to help us and help the world of this mission, Darren, I'll pass it to you.
Yes, we exactly as James alluded to there. We have various crafted emails which we can supply to people in our movement, community members, volunteers, for them to reach out to their local businesses and to make it easy for them to shoot off an email and say, look, I'm a visually impaired member of the community, or I've visited your store, or I'd like to visit your restaurant, but it's tough for me. And we'll supply a range of emails, and then people can shoot those off at their leisure to the sort of businesses that they want to be going to and visiting. So that's really important. We do that, and just to reinforce the point, you know, the world is a big place. The number of bars and restaurants and shops and medical facilities and universities and airports, and you know, the list is endless. And so no one company is going to be able to bring accessibility to all of those. So exactly to Dan's point, of course, we want RightHear to succeed, and we want RightHear to be a flourishing, vibrant business, which it is and growing. But we also need other companies within the industry to also flourish, because not one company cannot create awareness of accessibility across the board. We need a number of companies, each with their own special area of interest, each with their own niche, all of them to be successful, so that accessibility is brought across the whole and not just one small part. So yeah, we're working together with a wide range of companies all the time.
Maybe
I see that Jonas has raised his hand. I'm going to allow you to speak, Jonas. Jonas, you can take yourself off mute and you can ask your question. Jonas, I think you're still on mute.
Yeah, we cannot hear you.
If you can unmute yourself.
You know, while Jonas, you're trying to unmute yourself, I'll add another thing, you know, to James' point earlier of feeling ignored. Oh, Jonas, you think we can hear you?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, please.
Yeah, sorry guys, you know, multitasking.
That's fine.
My question was, what would the experience be like, you know, when you're traveling, specifically like to different countries with different languages, and like, you know, when you have your phone set to, you know, English or whatnot? Thanks.
Sure. So the app, once you download the app, we ask you a few permissions, you know, from location services, and one of the questions there is also what's your language preference. Again, we're not asking any personal information about who you are, not even name or email, but we do want to know what language you speak, and you can have a few of them there as well. And then that's going to be the preferred language. You're going to hear the descriptions for wherever you go, as long as this facility allow multiple languages on their side. Again, to remind you all, there's a whole facility interface where they basically set up what is that going to be heard when users are coming into their premises. But basically, wherever you'll go, Jonas, the same experience will be at the same preferred language you choose. If that's English, that will be English. I hope it answers. Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So is that like, for the people that are, the facility that has the system in place, is that like additional stuff that they have to do to support multiple languages, or how does that work?
Yeah, so you again in the U.S. specifically, English is the default language. In most of our plans, it comes with at least another 3 or 4 languages supports. If they want to, expand to even more languages, they have a very small fee that they need to pay. But yes, and that's something that we've intentionally made small because we want it to be in as many languages as possible. But yeah, it's under restriction.
All right. Yeah, great. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Excellent. Awesome. Do we have any other questions or anything going on in the chat, Jan?
Nothing in the chat that I see. And
everyone's been doing a great job of engaging, raising their hands, and asking live. So everything's covered as far as the chat and the Q&A goes.
Awesome. Are there any last minute questions or otherwise we'll transition into winding it down, maybe give a couple of minutes back on everyone's day to grab a drink in between this and the next meeting or next call or whatever we're all going to go do for the rest of our Wednesdays.
James, do you mind if I'll ask a question?
Yeah.
I want to ask a question to the attendees today. What from everything you've heard today excites you the most? And what did you like about what you heard today? What you didn't like about what you heard today is also equally important for us to hear. As I said, we're going to do more webinars. And I'm curious, as I said, it's an experiment today. So I'd love to also learn from you what worked well, what didn't, for our next ones.
Absolutely. Excellent question. We'll give it a minute
of course,
to get some stuff in the chat. In the meantime, if you want to follow along with RightHear and get news and updates on new locations as they roll out, or get other user stories, user feedback, things like that, RightHear is on all of the major social platforms: your LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, soon to be TikTok, and there is a Facebook community page if anyone is interested in joining into the Facebook group, just for a little bit more engagement. We encourage you to do that, but also there's the RightHear newsletter. It is generally pretty packed with information, not just from RightHear, but from just general updates about the accessibility space as a whole. And so there's lots of ways to keep up to date with RightHear, whichever way you prefer. They are out there, and we encourage you to not just follow along, but to engage back.
Yeah.
Let us know what your thoughts or ideas or opinions are, what we could change, do better, do differently. We're always looking for that kind of information.
And Darren and I both available also, right? And on LinkedIn or just in our emails. My email is idan, IDAN, @right-hear.com, just like our website. And Darren's email is just the same with Darren at the beginning, DARREN.
I'm going to share. I'll share with all attendees an email later on today, and it will include our email addresses and include links to our Facebook page and user tutorials and our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn page and our website. I'll send a list of all the links that anyone might need to be able to keep in contact with us and reach out to us as required.
Excellent.
We do have one submission in the Q&As for a takeaway. Being from Alejandra, the love of multiple languages, being a lot of presentations that are done for Spanish-speaking clients and resources for them being extremely limited, and her expressing excitement about being extremely excited to share this with them.
Thank you, Alejandra. Thank you for sharing this. This is
Thank
awesome.
you. Awesome. So thank you everyone who joined in. It looked like majority of people stuck around to this point. So thank you for sticking around with us, as Adon mentioned, through this kind of experimental first attempt at a webinar. So thank you everyone for joining. Those of you who asked questions, just appreciate everything so far. And thank you, Darren and Adon, for sharing information And just a round of applause for you guys. 2,500 locations. There aren't too many accessibility companies that are making bounds like that. So thank you to you guys. Thank you to everybody who joined in, and we hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday afternoon and a great rest of your week.
Yeah. See you all next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.